What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. And in today's video we're here with another tier list, and we are going through the biggest fraud checks in the UFC. That's right, there have been a lot of fraud checks in the UFC recently. A lot of guys that have been hyped up as the next big prospect and then end up getting TKO'd by Neil Magny. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about in today's video. Obviously the inspiration for this video was yesterday's main event. Joe Pyfer, the salty man himself, got a decision loss to Jack Hermansson, Pillow Fist Hermansson, and that's not all though. We're going to have a bunch of different fraud check moments on this list, and we've got 5 different tiers ranging from, top tier fraud check all the way down to incoming fraud check for those that haven't happened yet. First guy that we have here is Neil Magny fraud checking Mike Malott. It's going in the top tier fraud check section. This was one of the biggest fraud checks of recent memory. Not because Mike Malott was hailed as some future prospect or future champion. I mean, he was kind of a prospect. He was sort of hailed as like the future of Canadian MMA somewhat. But, he was winning against Neil Magny. He was winning 2 rounds, and then he ran out of gas and he got fucking TKO'd by Neil Magny, finished with strikes by Neil Magny. I repeat that, Neil Magny, who wasn't even able to TKO his 5-year-old son with knees in the clinch. And so yeah, it's unfortunate for Mike Malott, but he got fraud checked hard. So we move on to another fighter. We've got Guram Kutateladze getting fraud checked and TKO'd by Elvis Brenner. I'm going to put this in the completely exposed category because Guram, he got completely exposed. That's what the tier's there for. It's very fitting for that fight. He was winning the fight, not comfortably. Brenner was actually winning the first round, but then Guram cracked him bad at the end of the first. He won the second round, cut him open, but he kind of got exposed, in my opinion, to just be this like technique masher with no real game plan, not a lot of heart, not a lot of toughness, not a lot of cardio, and not enough power to finish a fight. Like, he was landing good and stuff, but he kind of just seems like he's just throwing random shit and not actually like doing anything. With his Brenner, pushed him forward, gassed him out, and TKO'd him. So Guram got fraud checked hard. I know Lucas Tracy was very happy about that, but we move on to the next fighter. The next fighter that we have is Mackenzie Dern getting fraud checked somewhat by Jessica Andrade. I'm going to go in completely embarrassed. Look, it wasn't a massive fraud checking of sorts, but because she had lost before that. Like, Mackenzie Dern has looked kind of mid in the past, in the fighting aspect. Of course, looks-wise, she's great to look at. But in the fighting aspect, she has looked a bit iffy at times. But this was like the first time when we really saw her just get kind of rendered useless from memory. Like, I don't remember another fight where she just got so beat up and dominated and looked like complete shit. Didn't shoot any takedowns, tried to strike with Andrade, and just got outstruck and TKO'd by Andrade, who was on a 3-fight loss streak. So, yeah, it's going in the embarrassed section. Very tough performance from Mackenzie Dern. Did not look good at all. We move on, though, to another fighter. Nicholas Dalby fraud-checking Gabriel Bonfim. It's going in couldn't hold up because this one wasn't an embarrassing performance. It wasn't like a complete exposure. This one was more like Bonfim was clearly winning. He was dominating the fight. And then he kind of just got out-gassed and out-cardioed. I know you guys might think the same about Brenner versus Guram, but this was a different story because this was Bonfim getting a jump up, so this wasn't like he got brutally exposed. He was winning the fight. He looked better than Dalby, but he kind of just had an adrenaline dump and just got finished in the second round, I believe it was. So unfortunate for Bonfim, but a decent fraud check nonetheless. We move on, though, to another fighter. Arman Sarukian, I'm putting him in incoming fraud check because it hasn't happened yet. He hasn't lost yet. He lost to Islam Makhachev and he's lost on the regional scene. But I think his major fraud check is going to come against Charles Oliveira at UFC 300. I think he's going to get finished in the first round by TKO, and the Arman fanboys, the caucus guys, the cave dwellers are going to have a big wake-up call and realize that this guy isn't the fucking messiah and that he's not the best thing since sliced bread. So I think Arman Sarukian's overrated. He got rocked by Joaquim Silva. And I think Charles Oliveira is going to put him away in the first round. Not to say that means Arman is bad, of course. There's different levels of fraud checking here, but it's going to be a term in fraud checking in terms of people think Armin's a future a future title contender, a future champion, and I think Oliveira's going to prove that's not the case. But we move on to another fighter. Giga Chikadze getting TKO'd. Oh, no, sorry, not TKO'd. Getting fraud checked by Kelvin Cater and 50-45 or 50-44 or whatever the scorecard was, and completely dominated and shut down. This was an elite fraud check, top tier, I would say. Giga got completely dominated, and the thing that made this better was that he was chatting mad shit, and because this was around the time when Holloway pulled out of the trilogy, which was scheduled for UFC 273. And what happened was, Giga Chikadze was saying that Volkanovski was scared of him, saying that he was going to win this fight, dominate Cater, and then fight for the belt. And, he got 50-45, so that's tough, little bro. Quit yapping. But we move on to another fighter. Rob Font fraud-checking Adrian Yanez and KOing him in the first round. I'm putting this in completely exposed because, and the subsequent performance from Yanez getting TKO'd by Martinez was not ideal as well. But this was the first time where Yanez really just got completely fucked up. He got exposed to his power was overrated. He couldn't drop or hurt fucking Chinny Man Font, who's gets doing the jitterbug every fight. And then he just got walked through and just got jabbed up and TKO'd in the first round. So tough for Yanez. He was hailed as a future contender. He was hailed as the next fucking Jorge Masvidal. And then couldn't get past Rob Font. Got finished in the first. Rob Font coming off literally a blender, getting put through a blender by Cheeto, and you couldn't even rock this guy. Yeah, tough one. Go back to the line. Get out of here, buddy. The next fighter is Damir Ismagulov, the hardcore fans' wet dream, getting dominated by Grant Dawson and 30-27 and not displaying any grappling defense whatsoever. Massive fraud check. I'm putting it in got embarrassed because that's what happened. He obviously did lose to Armin before this, so again, not like he was an undefeated guy, but this was just a performance where where all the hardcores shut up and they were all these guys are saying, Damir and Guram, these guys are future champions, bro. The Weasel he did a future top 10 of lightweight prediction video. He had Damir, Guram, and Ottoman Azaita all in the top 10, and he had Charles Oliveira falling out of the rankings. So, quit yapping, Weasel, and also Damir, you suck. And then he fucking just quit the sport because he got embarrassed. So we move on to the next fighter. Ismail Bonfim got subbed by Bernard St. Denis. That is the next fraud check that we have here. I'm just going to put it in couldn't hold up though, because this wasn't anything major. At the time, a lot of people judged him harshly for it, but we found out pretty quickly that Bernard St. Denis is not a shameful guy to lose to, so it's not going to be too high up on the list. But yeah, fraud check nonetheless. At the time, he was coming off a big win. He was a big favourite, and he got done and put in a box by BSD. So tough one for Bonfim. Both of them got fraud checked in the same year that they had the hype begin. They got fraud checked soon after, so tough one for them. Hopefully they can rebound soon. But we move on to another fighter. Next incoming fraud check is Tatiana Suarez. I don't think she's a future champion, and not saying she's not good again, but these are just the people. I'm hearing a whole lot of people like these guys on MMAfighting.com or whatever on YouTube saying that she's going to be a future champion and beat Zhang Weili easily and that no one can stand a chance against her. And I was like, settle down, bro. She beat Montana De La Rosa and then she beat Andrade. Sick. Andrade gets subbed by anyone who has wrestling and jiu-jitsu. The only one who couldn't do it was Dern because she's shit. But Andrade was coming off a fucking KO loss 3 months later and stepped in on short notice. So let's just chill. I don't think Tatiana Suarez is a future champion. I think Zhang Weili would fucking ice her. And yeah, that's just that. These guys, in this tier, again, I could be wrong on a lot of these, but these are just the guys that I'm hearing a lot of hype behind. The big prospects, the big undefeated guys, the ones with the O, and I just don't think they're going to live up to the hype, in my opinion. And Tatiana Suarez is one of them. But we move on to another fighter. Edmund Shabazian getting dominated and finished by Brunson. It's going at the top because Shabazian had the rocket strapped to him. He was a big prospect. Everyone was high on him, and, tough luck. They fed him to Blonde Brunson, and he got dealt with pretty handedly. So, top-tier fraud check. Shabazian, since then, lost to a whole lot of guys. So, it's been rough for him. And the funny thing is, he's only 26, and he's already basically just been derailed as a prospect, and no one thinks highly of him at all. Even though he's still pretty good, everyone's off the train. So, rough one for Edmund, but yeah. We move on to another fighter. Darren Till getting dominated by Tyrone Woodley in his title fight. It's going in completely exposed. Look, I didn't watch this fight at the time. I was not a UFC viewer at the time, but I'm kind of across the basic gist of what was going on. Darren Till was a big-time prospect. Tyrone Woodley was a champion that just wasn't all that liked. Even though he had some fun fights, even though he did get some finishes, a lot of people just didn't like him as a champion. Dana didn't like him, and they tried to push Darren Till as this big promotable guy from the UK, the next Conor McGregor, and, he got swiftly dealt with and dominated. So yeah, he got exposed, his grappling got exposed, and ever since then, his grappling continues to get exposed. Darren Till in the bin, no longer in the promotion. It's been a rough one for the Gorilla. We move on though to the next fighter. Cyril Gane fraud checking Sergey Spivak. It's just going to go in embarrassed. Look, Spivak, I know, not a major prospect or anything like that. He wasn't a guy that people were hailing as a future champion, but there were some guys picking him. The Weasel was picking him, Lucas Tracy was picking him. A lot of people thought this guy was going to be the next big smothering grappler that was just going to run through everyone with the judo and just give everyone problems, and Gane pieced him up. Gane, who literally got out wrestled in his last two fights, or two out of his last three fights, basically just jumped out of Spivak's takedowns and just bullied him, and it's pretty much like in jiu-jitsu where the big strong guy just gets out of all the submissions using the strength. Like, Gane kind of just told Spivak, like, nah, you're not taking me down. Spivak kind of shit himself and got standing TKO'd with about 47 different strikes to the body and the back of the head as well, because that's the Gane special. That's the Gane 17-strike TKO special, standing TKO special for Cyril Gane. But we move on to another fighter. Raul Rosas Jr. getting decision loss to, Christian Rodriguez. It's going to go in, couldn't hold up, because that's pretty much the story of this fight. Rosas looked good early. He won the first round, and then he just couldn't hold up. He didn't have the experience, didn't have the cardio, didn't have the strength, didn't have the grappling to hold up with Rodriguez, and it wasn't a massive fraud check of sorts, because I think everyone kind of knew what the deal was with Rosas. Like, he's super young, super green, really should have been pushing him, like, extremely slowly, and yeah. So I'm not going to say a big fraud check, but yeah, he just couldn't hold up. It wasn't ready yet for that jump up in competition, and he lost accordingly. We move on though to the next fighter. Next incoming fraud check is Bo Nickel. I'm telling you guys, he's not going to be, or he might be a champion at one point, but he's going to lose before he gets there. I truly believe that. I'm hearing Brendan Schaub just like, oh, Bo Nickel could just go in there and run through all of these guys. Why don't they just put him in a title fight? It's like, because he would fucking lose, you retard. He struggled to take down Jamie Pickett. He needed to KO him in the nuts to do it. He needed to punch him in the cock to take him down. Like, he KO'd Val Woodburn. Like, sick. He's beat no one good. Can we just settle down? I know he's got the little title of his fucking NCAA wrestling or some shit, but, like, let's just settle down, see him actually beat a fucking good fighter, and then maybe we can, reassess our capabilities, because he's going to fight Brundage, and that's going to prove nothing. Fuck, sorry, my bad. But yeah, we move on to the next fighter. The next fighter, though, is Anshul Jubilee getting KO'd, sir, by Mike Breeden. Do not redeem, sir. Anshul Jubilee, it was a rough one for him. He's going right at the top. Again, was winning, and then Mike Breeden just decided to, like, punch him in the face, and Jubilee was like, oh no, I do not know what this is, sir. Give me your credit card details. And then he just got KO'd. He's like, oh no, I wanted to be the first champion from India. Punjabi lad. So Jubilee, it was rough for him. He got fucking iced out by Mike Breeden, who's awful. But yeah, we move on to the next fighter. The next fraud checking, though, is Israel Adesanya getting taught how to box by Sean Strickland. I'm putting this in completely exposed, and I know all the little Izzy nut huggers, all the little fucking anime watchers that think they're in a little fucking main character syndrome moment, they're all going to come to the comments and be like, oh no, Izzy's the best fighter of all time, you can't insult him. His striking got exposed, and I know it sounds weird to say that a champion got fraud checked. I'm not so much calling this a fraud check, but it was just an exposure that the fact that he can't box. Straight up. His technical boxing is shit. He just throws his little fucking hands. He goes like 1-2 little loopy shots. Like, he was just looking like an absolute tard out there. He's like, what? Is he just shat himself and didn't know what to do when his fucking leg kicks didn't work, and that he just didn't land his right hands because Strickland wasn't running into him like a tard with his hands down. And that's the only way Izzy KOs people. Like, literally, Whitaker Costa and Pereira, each of those KOs, they just fucking had their hands down by their waist and they got chinned. So good job from Adesanya, fair play for those wins. But Strickland taught him how to box and he exposed him. So don't come at me in the comments. He doesn't know you, little bro. Like, calm down. He's not going to suck you off. But we move on to next fighter. The next forechecking, though, is Sean Brady getting TKO'd by Bilal. Remember the Plains Muhammad. Pillow fists Bilal. He's going in he's going in, got embarrassed, because that's what happened. And look, Brady has rebounded since then. But what I'm looking at here is not where their career is at right now, but just after that fight, what happened, what was the result of that fight, and the result of this fight was Sean Brady getting embarrassed and finished by Bilal and not throwing back and not knowing how to defend punches or take a shot. So yeah, got embarrassed, rough one for Sean Brady. But we move on to next fighter. Grant Dawson, the Ismagulov hype derailer, also got derailed in his next fight by Bobby Green, and that's going and couldn't hold up because, he just couldn't hold up with the big boys. He couldn't hold up with the young thugs like Bobby Green. That's not a racially motivated statement at all. But Bobby Green just chinned him in like 30 seconds. Not like an embarrassing performance. He didn't get exposed. He kind of just got cracked with a shot. His chin kind of got exposed, I guess. But apart from that, just couldn't hold up. Wasn't there in the striking yet. Looked kind of shit, throwing weird overhands. And yeah, just not a good performance from Grant Dawson. He got fraud checked briefly, but I'm sure he'll be back soon and he'll get another 30-27 body triangle decision over an unranked lightweight. So looking forward to that. But we move on to another fighter. The next fighter that's going to get derailed, though, is Umar Nurmagomedov. I truly believe, I do think this guy... fuck, I'm sick. I do think this guy is going to get fraud checked at some point. Look, I do think he's very good. I do think he's going to win a few fights. I do think he will probably be a top 5 bantamweight. But I don't think this guy is just Khabib 2.0. Like, he's literally a striker for the most part. He's got some good grappling, but who's this guy beat? He beat Ione Barcelos, he's beat Nate Maness, and he's beat Brian Kelleher. Like, sick. He's fighting some random dude. He's probably going to struggle with him, which is my prediction for that fight. He's going to win, but it's going to be like one of those fights, when Armin almost lost to fucking Joaquim Silva. It's going to be one of those ones where the guy just has a bit of a scare, and then he's going to fight some guy just outside the top 5. He's probably going to win, but struggle, and then he's going to lose to a top 5 guy like a Marab or like a Corey Sandhagen. I think he would lose to these guys, and I think he's going to get derailed because everyone's just hailing this guy as a future champion and saying that everyone's scared of him. Like, no, it just doesn't make sense to fight a guy who has no ranked wins and hasn't fought in over a year. So yeah, that's my opinion on the matter, but we move on to another fighter. You know what? I'm going to move Woodley Till to the top, and the next fighter, though, that we have is... what's his name? Dolidze against Amavov. It's going in completely exposed because Dolidze got exposed. Look, he had lost to Vettori before that, but this was the one, in my opinion, where people were still picking him. People were like, that power was serious, man. That jiu-jitsu is nasty. Can't go to the ground with this guy. And, he just got pieced up and used as a punching bag, and his only game plan was to try and clinch against the cage. So he got exposed, and yeah, I'm also moving Till versus Woodley up a tier, because that was pretty big fraud check at the time. We move on, though, to another fighter. Another fighter that got completely exposed is Kron Gracie against Charles Jourdain. And yeah, again, not a hype train, not a prospect, but just a guy that got exposed completely and dominated and looked shit. So yeah, Kron Gracie, his jiu-jitsu got exposed, and we now know for sure that you cannot just do jiu-jitsu and MMA without striking and hope it works, or wrestling. Like, if you try and play guard, it doesn't work. They'll just sit there and not get subbed. So that's how it works. Kron Gracie looks like a homeless junkie. Go back to the fucking favelas, little bro. You ain't Kron Gracie. Sorry, you ain't fucking Royce Gracie. Like, that shit don't work anymore. We move on, though, to another fighter. Another fighter, though, that got completely embarrassed was Romanov. Alexander Romanov against Alexander Volkov. This guy, I picked him to win this fight somehow. He lost to Tabora, right? So that was the beginning of the hype derailment. But a lot of people like, okay, fair play. He was dominating. Gassed out cardio-wise, but he was dominating that fight. He would have won if he didn't gas out. But then against Volkov, he put on weight after gassing out in his last fight and gassed out after a minute. Volkov did grab the cage, fair play, but he just gave up and got TKO'd and embarrassed. So no one single human being alive ever thought anything of Romanov after that. So yeah, we move on to another fighter. Another performance that was completely embarrassing was Abbas Magomedov against Sean Strickland. Guy gassed out after 2 minutes, he got one takedown, threw some kicks, poked him in the eye, and when that shit didn't work, he curled up in a ball and ended up looking like fucking Sneeko. And somehow Abbas Magomedov went down faster than Sneeko did. So that's a rough one for Mr. Abus. He took a shit on the back of Abus. But yeah, we move on to another fighter. Another fighter that got completely embarrassed, Colby Covington against Leon Edwards. Again, I know a lot of people like, title fight, what do you mean? He's already fought for belts. He's already won an interim title. He's not a fraud or anything. But this performance in particular and this long layoff and then coming back got fraud checked, in my opinion, and got embarrassed. He threw fucking nothing, and now he's trying to use a broken foot as an excuse. Guess what, little bro? People break their feet in fight. That's what happens when you fucking kick people. Like, stop being a bitch. Like, you're not even throwing kicks. You're a fucking wrestler, bro. Just, like, at least push a pace. Throw some boxing in there, mate. Try and gas him out. Like, crowd his space. And this guy just stood there and got leg kicked at range. So then he said he won. Fuck off. Embarrassing performance. And now he's given up on his little fucking act. He can't even afford to pay the hookers anymore to stand next to him in his video. And so that's rough for Mr. Covington. But we move on to another fighter. But we move on to the motivation for making this video. And it was Joe Salty Man Pyfer, Mr. I hit harder than Ngannou and you're a nerd if you don't think so, getting decisioned and literally made to look like an amateur on the feet against Jack Hermanson, who literally has the same power as my grandma. And yeah, that's tough. It's going to go, though, in couldn't hold up. I really wanted to put this in one of the top 2 tiers, but he did not really get exposed because, in my opinion, we did not view Joe Pyfer as some elite technical striker. I think everyone just viewed him as this big power puncher that was probably going to run through Hermanson. He didn't, and he just couldn't hold up. I think that is the most appropriate way, even though he chatted a whole lot, and that made him really eat his words. I do think that he is going to... I do think that it's more of like a case of just wasn't ready, didn't get completely dominated or exposed. He just kind of lost, and we thought he was going to win, and he didn't. So that's how it goes for fucking Joe Pyfer. But we move on to another fighter. Another fighter that's going to get fraud checked is Muhammad Makayev. This man is going to lose. I swear to God, he cannot keep getting away with looking shit in the first 2 rounds and then pulling out a sub in the third. Like, it's not going to work. Look, he's probably going to beat Alex Perez, but after that, if he fights a Nicolau, if he fights a Manel Cap, if he fights a Kai Kara-France, an El Bazi, a Royval, I don't love his chances. Look, maybe he beats Royval with the takedowns, but a lot of these guys like Kai, El Bazi, Manel Cap, Moreno, I don't think he beats any of these guys, and he's going to get exposed, and he's going to realize that you can't just lose the first 2 rounds to Tim Elliott and then submit everyone in the third. Like, it's not going to work. So that's my opinion, though. We move on to another fighter. Another fighter that's going to get fraud checked is Ikram Alaskarov. Again, these MMA fighting guys, I'm hearing Mike Heck, this guy's a top 5 fighter as of right now. I'm like, settle down. Let's chill out. He was looking a bit mid against Phil Hawes on the feet before he caught him. Like, let's just chill. He beat Wally Alves on short notice, who's a welterweight, and lost to Nicholas Dalby. Like, let's just calm down. Let's stop just saying guys are future top 5 fighters before they've literally beat anyone who's currently signed to the middleweight roster. Phil Hawes just got cut. Wally Alves is not a 185er. Let's just see him beat someone good, and then we can make our judgments. I just want to see this guy versus a ranked opponent. Look, he probably would have beat Fluffy Hernandez, but if this guy fights like a big, strong guy that can stuff the takedowns, his striking doesn't look the best. He got stiff flatlined by Hamzat, whose striking ain't all that. Like, he literally got made to look like a fucking amateur against Usman on short notice. I know it's Usman, but Hamzat could not deal with a fucking jab on short notice, upper weight class. And yeah, and he stiffened Ikram. So I don't think Ikram's going to make it as fast as people say. Maybe he becomes a future guy in this division at some point, but I think he's going to lose again on the way. So yeah, but another fighter that's going to get forechecked soon is Ian Gary, Kakchado. Look, I don't think he's going to lose to Jeff Neal. I hate to say it, the world's too cruel. I would love to see him get slumped out cold by Jeff Neal and for his little fucking stinky tofu breath to be breathing all over the octagon as he's out cold, breathing into a fucking oxygen tube like Adesanya after the first Pereira fight. But I just don't see it happening as of yet. But at some point it will. I guarantee you. If this guy fights Shavkat, if he fights Leon, if he fights Della Maddalena, if he fights Usman even, like these guys, even Bilal could give him some trouble. You know, I think he is going to lose at some point in the near future, and it's going to be tremendous. But we move on to another fighter. Paulo Costa, he's going in the top tier. because this man got embarrassed and exposed and everything. Top tier fraud check against Adesanya. And not only that, but then in his subsequent fights against Vettori, literally got schooled by mediocre Marvin, and then against Rockhold, even though he won, he looked shit. Costa literally got butt raped by Adesanya after losing his title fight, and then proceeded to fight once every fucking 15 months and look shit doing so. So it's been a rough ride for Costa. I hope he gets schooled by Whittaker, and I'm predicting that to happen. So yeah, fuck you, Costa. We move on to another fighter. Molly McCann. She's gonna go in completely exposed, because yeah, she already lost to Erin Blanchfield, but then that fight against Julia Stoliarenko was just a rough one to watch. I know now she's down at strawweight. She looks like she's got maybe a bit of promise, but yeah, she's got no defensive grappling, and that got exposed. She literally got outlanded like 150-0 on strikes by Erin Blanchfield, so that's rough. We move on there to another fighter. Dawn Strickland against Nasadina Mavov. I should have said it the other way around, but regardless, I'm just going to put it in couldn't hold up. It wasn't a massive fraud checking. I know a lot of people jumped off the Mavov hype train at the time, but I think he's still a great fighter. I still am pretty high on him. I think he'll be a top 5 guy. Definitely not a champion as of right now, but top 5 guy for sure. Went tit for tat with Strickland, or not tit for tat, but he went close rounds with Strickland. Lost a 49-46, 48-47 kind of decision. And yeah, just couldn't hold up the top just yet. And yeah, I think he would beat not a Sean Strickland, but a guy like maybe even a Cannonier. Maybe I think he would beat a Marvin Vettori, obviously, a Costa. Even Whittaker, as crazy as it sounds, I wouldn't mind his chances against. But yeah, another fighter that we have though is Kevin Lee. He's going in, got embarrassed. And I'm talking about the Renat Fakhretdinov performance, because I know he'd lost before this, and I know no one really considered him a title challenger, and he was heavily not favoured to win this fight. But regardless, he got embarrassed in this fight. He was talking a big game about a future title run. He was talking like he's back. And yeah, he got slumped in 40 seconds. So that's rough for Bedtime MMA, otherwise known as Kevin Lee. But we move on to another fighter. Johnny Walker against Corey Anderson is going in, couldn't hold up, because it's Walker. And I'm talking about his chin. It couldn't hold up. So maybe you should have put it in, maybe I should have put it in exposed. I could do that too. But it's the here now and I can't change it. So yeah. Johnny Walker, his chin just couldn't hold up. He wasn't right at that level yet. As Corey Anderson said, there's levels, and Johnny Walker was not on that level, so he got kind of fraud checked. We move on though to another fighter. Jalen Turner against Dan Hooker is going in completely exposed, because in my opinion, Jalen Turner got exposed. His power's overrated. I know Hooker's got a great chin. His cardio kind of got exposed. He got pressured, and his chin got kind of exposed too, because on a rough weight cut, I know he's a weight bully, and Vicente Luque KO'd him as soon as he's up at welterweight, so he needs the size, otherwise he just gets smoked. But Dan Hooker, not even in his prime, Dan Hooker kind of just walked through him after a tough first round and just bullied him in there and won 2-1. So it's been tough for Jalen Turner. He beat Bobby Green since then, but who cares? We move on though to another fighter. Final top tier fraud check, and the biggest one of them all maybe, is Ronda Rousey as a champion getting fraud checked by Holly Holm, and it getting proved to the entire world that she cannot strike and literally has the fundamental skill of a fucking child who's done like 3 boxing classes. Yeah, she got exposed and her striking was awful. I know Holly Holm was a great fighter at the time, now she just clinches people up against the fence. But Ronda Rousey was seen as just this fucking never-before-seen human being, the best thing ever to exist, the most fearsome woman on the planet, saying she would beat Floyd Mayweather in a street fight. And yeah, you got kicked in the face by Holly Holm, jabbed up and put away inside a few rounds. So that's a rough one for you, Mr. Ronda, or Miss Ronda, sorry. Yeah, and then she was just salty afterwards. Her and Piper should, get together. They'd be a great couple. The house would be full of salt at all times. But that is the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Those are the biggest fraud checks in the UFC, and also at the bottom tier, the guys that I do believe are going to get fraud checked in the near future. Let me know if you guys agree with my picks. Who else did I miss? I'm sure there's some of them. Let me know in the comments down below. Yeah, we got more videos coming soon. I have predictions coming in the near future for UFC 298. Banger card, super excited. And yeah, big tier list for you. If you sat through all of it, greatly appreciated. Like, subscribe, all that. Follow my Instagram, Left Lane MMA. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, everybody. Keep it harder.